Hi, I'm Eric Johnson, and I'm the director of the William M. Staerkel Planetarium at Parkland College. I'd like to share with you how we've adapted our programming in light of the current pandemic. Although the planetarium normally offers a mixture of live shows, lectures, and full-dome videos, we're not showing full-dome videos in the virtual environment. They're all formatted for a 360-degree view, and our licensing agreements would not permit such a rebroadcasting to the public. An immersive 360-degree view works if you have a VR headset like Oculus Rift, or if you mount your smartphone into Google Cardboard, but those aren't widely available. To keep our shows accessible to most, we present them with views that are properly formatted for a computer screen, giving you a view of a fraction of the sky at a time. A fisheye view of the entire sky on your computer screen feels like a less natural experience. Our first experience was taking the open source software Stellarium and sharing views of it through Zoom. This software allows you to simulate the sky anywhere on Earth, as well as throughout the solar system. We have been using Stellarium in our astronomy classes at Parkland for several years, and it's free for anyone to download. I have this sky simulation software here called Stellarium that I've been using with my astronomy classes for several years. And we have configured this because of its portability for use in our public shows. It is pretty simple to use. I can operate lots of keyboard shortcuts for it, so it's very easy to operate and also to customize. If you're looking at the screen that I have here, which I'm not sharing on Zoom quite yet, the screen is actually showing the outside of the planetarium as well as the theater complex. And that is thanks to a 360-degree view photograph that was actually taken by Waylena. And we were able to upload that into the software. We actually have another one of these for a local observatory operated by an associated astronomy club too. But I always start with this view when I start our shows, just to remind people of what we represent and where we're from. Another way we do this, I'll bring this up here. You see my Zoom view on the screen. Normally, everybody can look at my cluttered office and Waylena behind me as well. But you're well aware about how Zoom has backgrounds. And a couple of the backgrounds that I choose during our public shows are images that were produced by Waylena, as a matter of fact. Sure, I could use the stuff Zoom provides because being able to see the northern lights sitting behind me is always really fun. But I like to add options that help represent the planetarium. So let me go ahead and bring up a couple of those here right now. So here's one that Waylena made where she used the field of stars that we could produce with the Star system along with the photo of the planetarium there. Then Waylena decided to get a little abstract with some of the images, like that one there. We've got another very abstract fractally image there too. We have a little bit more subdued view of the stars as well there. And I'm not going to get into many of the other images that I have where things get a little silly, like if I were at Dunder Mifflin or something. So that's what you're seeing there. All right. I'll leave up the normal planetarium one so that I can pretend like I'm a professional. There we go. So in our shows, I usually am sharing the screen, not the full screen. I'm usually just sharing Stellarium. And I actually have a number of features that I like to do to make it feel a little bit more immersive. And I also know that there's going to be some challenges to network bandwidth. That's why, even though we're not actually welcoming anybody into the lobby here during our public shows, I tend to do them exclusively from campus. I could do them from home, but I feel like the network's not strong enough for that. So I come here and I set it up and I use Parkland's ample network bandwidth for that. Then with the software, I always have to set up some settings because I haven't written a script that does this right off the bat. So I try to shrink down the amount of things that I display on the screen. I know this one's going to be a bit hard to see, but at least Zoom is recording this part right now. I usually am changing a couple of features in how it gets viewed. Oh yeah, I definitely want to change the size of the fonts on the screen so that people can actually read it. You know, very important for visibility, right? Let's see here. I actually amplify the brightness of the stars as well as the Milky Way. You heard about how Waylina was doing the same thing with the dome because, again, if you're talking about seeing stars, that can be quite a challenge. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I do tend to scale the moon. That's right. Okay. I'm kind of forgetting this. I actually have a list of all the features that I add because it's so hard to keep track of everything. Okay. I also actually turn off the labels for the stars. I have a keyboard shortcut. You can take away the atmosphere, you can take away the ground. Look at how beautiful that sky already looks because the Milky Way's already been amplified in brightness by 50%. Same goes for the stars as well. But I also like to make it so that anything that we select on is a little bit of a surprise. So you see right here, this is clearly the sun, but right now you can't even see the sun as a label. I usually do that to turn on the sun's label on the right side there. And you could also see a little label, oops, hit the wrong button. You could always see a label for all the planets or the bright stars using a couple of those keyboard shortcuts. So that's what I do just to make sure that it's not given away immediately when I select something. So right here where I've selected Venus, I can center on it, and we've got some ways I can zoom in on this right here. And you come in close, and there's the planet right there. When people look at this, in this example of Venus, they see how it's not like a full circle. It kind of reminds them of seeing like the phases of the moon, and that's just because both Venus and Mercury actually show phases just like the moon does, just not over the same period of cycle because those are planets orbiting the sun instead. So that's one example there. Just over to the left of the center of the Milky Way are two really bright planets in our evening sky right now. Here's Jupiter right there. I'll center on that. And when you come in close, you can see Jupiter, but you see 4 dots surrounding it. And those 4 dots are its largest moons. Okay? And like I said, I don't like to have the labels up because it makes the image a little bit more cluttered. And so that's why I have to really customize this in order to make sure that it's less of a busy view. As we began to promote our virtual field trips, we also adapted the software we use in the dome, Digistar 6. It does everything Stellarium does and much more, so we prefer to use that for our virtual field trips. Our show producer, Waylina McCulley, has much more experience customizing the features in this software too.
Hi, I'm Waylina McCulley, producer at the William M. Staerkel Planetarium at Parkland College. And ordinarily I would be presenting content in the planetarium itself, which is where we are sitting right now. But this year, of course, we've been switching to as much online presentation as possible. So we've added an additional monitor, made a few changes to our hardware, and set it up so that we can, usually through Zoom, but we can do it through others as well. We present our programs digitally in an on-screen format.
The main challenges to configuring Digistar 6 for virtual programming were having a webcam set up at our workstation, having an additional monitor installed to allow us to see the Zoom window, and to share a full screen with a view of the sky. Waylina also had to customize the software to reconfigure our views from 180 degrees down to as low as 60 degrees.
So for the online demos, I would introduce myself into the webcam and would talk about how the full circle fisheye view is what we would see on the planetarium ceiling, much like looking at the inside of a giant bowl. And so have a giant bowl. But to make it easier to see on the screen, first I'm able to widen it a little bit and then to zoom in. 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 on the horizon. So right now, this is the view as it is outside, but without the clouds. And I can take it from there and speed time up. In the planetarium, normally I would not use the direction letters until we're showing how to find the directions. But I've been finding it's better to just use them at the start, since that way it's easier on everyone as we change directions. And right now we're heading towards sunset, which doesn't take as long this time of year. And I can demonstrate what that's like when we change our angle. We can change it to face west. And the changes of direction, I do them a lot faster in the streaming view where we're looking at flat screens than I would if we're looking up at the planetarium ceiling, because, well, it would really make us dizzy. And we'll let that sun set. And we start to see some stars, maybe some planets. At this point, I will face south again. And here's where we sort of run into another problem in the difference between what we show on the ceiling and what we show on the screen. The brightnesses of the stars and the planets are usually set up to look good in the planetarium ceiling, but we have to adjust them differently for showing on the screen. So I've made a few shortcuts to make it look nicer on the screen, just like that. And this particular season, here we are, fall 2020, we have some amazing planets to look at in the evening sky. And so I'm able to feature those by zooming in even further and changing the view by hand just to get a good angle. And then we could talk about, say, Jupiter. I love zooming up Jupiter. And of course, Saturn, which you see Jupiter getting in the way of the view. And we have Mars has been incredibly bright. And we have its color exaggerated a little bit here in the streaming view. I'll give it equal time and zoom it up as well. So we do spend a lot of time still with constellations, and especially trying to point out star patterns that we can encourage people to just right after the presentation, if it's at night, go out and look, or wait until evening and go out and look for. And so in this case, I'm pointing out the stars of the Big Dipper. And we still can use some of our planetarium tricks, using the Big Dipper to point toward the North Star Polaris. And then we can show both of the dippers, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. I encourage folks to use those for finding their way out in the real sky. They're a very fast turnaround. I've also got it set up so that we can change the view while staying zoomed in to looking up overhead. And that lets us look at some famous star patterns, such as the infamous summer triangle, which looks better in the autumn, I think. Don't have to stay up all night to see it. And school kids that have been here, of course, for years, the most popular way of imagining the summer triangle has been the giant pizza slice. Of course, here in the planetarium, it would be taking up about, maybe 1/5 of the ceiling. And something that I did during the lockdowns, fifth graders year after year have been asking me for a giant nacho chip, and so I did program in a giant nacho chip finally. And when we're able to have people here in the planetarium again on a regular basis, I do look forward to showing that up there on the ceiling.
There are 2 or 3 pieces of open source software that we're excited to dive into. OpenSpace, Worldwide Telescope, and NASA's EYES are available for anyone to install on their computer. There's this software called Open Broadcast Studio software, OBS for short. And it's through there that I could actually change my camera view. Sorry, now the screen's going to get really busy because of all the things I'm trying to do here. So instead of the normal zoom view that you're seeing me with, I could change my camera to one of these OBS cameras. So what you're seeing there is just the view through OBS. We were trying to set up an arrangement so that instead of me having to do share screen, I could just toggle between all these different sources and show stuff in that fashion. I could just pop up the planetarium logo and everything so that people could have me narrate everything very nice and quickly. And then I could just switch over to a Stellarium view just like that. And notice with the Stellarium view, now you see an inset of myself. So these were just a couple of things we've been experimenting with, but we've got a couple of technical difficulties because, as you can see, the what's being viewed on OBS does not seem to have lossless compression when it goes into zoom. So it's something on our end that we have to perfect, but at this time we're still learning. Here, and I'll show this one last thing. With OBS, we have this really nice switch over. Where do I have it? There it is. All I have to do is just click this button and it will automatically load this video of the Mars helicopter demonstration. And so we can just use OBS to automatically queue up videos and other imagery for people. So when we've talked about the comet Neowise that had its appearance last summer, I could just click over to that scene and show images of the comet that were photographed from around here in Champaign.
So yeah, there's software that people could download from NASA that helps to visualize a number of different things. So we can check out remote sensing of the surface of the Earth, solar system, exoplanets. There are quite a few of them to choose from, and they're all working on Mac and Windows machines. Some of them have mobile versions. They've got Linux versions that'll be coming later. And this is the solar system one, Eyes on the Solar System. And I'm able to use the mouse to manipulate the view. We've got the orbits of the planets. We have some comets, some asteroids, various missions that are enabled. I can zoom in, and something that I've enjoyed recently, zooming in on the Earth, letting it load all of the textures. Very nice. We get the night side and the light side, and all the current missions, the current satellite missions that are around Earth. I should say the current NASA sponsored and co-sponsored missions. So this doesn't include all the telecoms. And it's a fun exploration tool. You can a lot of customization if you don't want to see the spacecraft, or if you want to see all the asteroids and the minor moons. And then the more you zoom out, the more you can see all of these different objects in space. This is one of those tools that we like showing because we like showing folks how they can explore real data themselves on their own machines.
Most of the lectures of the James B. Kaler Science Lecture Series don't use the simulated sky. So that transition was likely the easiest. That said, it's harder to give a talk when you can't interact with your audience as well. We have to mitigate the possibility of Zoom bombing by preventing our audience from sharing videos and keeping them muted. They can still use the chat window and click the Raise Your Hand button if they want to have their microphones permitted. Since all of our public virtual shows are free and available in your home, we have loved to share the sky with some new audiences who may not have been able to join us in the past. We've gotten some great suggestions for future topics to share, and we're coming up with ideas to incorporate into future live shows. We hope you can join us for one of these virtual shows. Please come to our website to check out the current show schedule to see what we have to offer.